Greetings and welcome back to the channel. My name is Joy. Guys, you saw the title of this video. We have a lot to go over. So apparently, Thomas Crooks had tried and failed an attempt to shoot up his school in high school. And we're getting more details coming out on exactly what has happened. And apparently now the FBI is starting to rescind some of their information because it just seems like all of these bureaus surrounding this can't get their crap together. I don't even know what to think. And guys, if you like content like this, make sure and subscribe, hit that notification bell. And also guys, do this with me. So as I'm going over the info, sound off in the comments. Tell me if you see or hear things that I'm not, you're picking up on things I'm not, or what you think of my assessment. Also like the video, everything helps. So let's go ahead and let's just dive in. We know that police have been trying to find a motive. So far, they can't really find a motive as to why this kid did this. I've had some theories that I've been going over as to what I think is happening. And it seems like more and more of my theories are being proven right. So let's go ahead and dive in. This is from the Daily Mail. And it says, exclusive, Trump shooter Thomas Crooks threatened to shoot up his high school and put bombs in the bathroom years before his failed assassination attempt on former President Trump. And it says, Thomas Crooks threatened to shoot up his high school when he was just 15 years old in an incident that wasn't taken seriously at the time, but is now being probed by the FBI, the Daily Mail can reveal. Federal officers on Thursday visited Crooks' former classmate, Vincent, I'm going to mess this up, I apologize, Vincent Taormina, I think, Taormina, 20, to quiz him about the shooter's hatred of politicians and the threats he made as a freshman at Bethel Park High School. Speaking exclusively to dailymail.com, he said, we had like this anonymous place you could post things or tell someone on our computers at school. And he posted something about like, don't come to school tomorrow. And something else that made it sound like he'd put bombs in the cafeteria bathrooms. Half of us just didn't come to school the next day. I didn't, but it wasn't taken seriously. We all texted one another when it came out pretty quickly that it was Thomas and his friend group who'd made the threats to shoot up the school. So I know that's Bethel Park High School. Here is another photo. We've seen a few photos circulating of him. And then it says, according to this guy, investigators were keen to hear more about the threats made by the younger Crooks in 2019, which were not, he said, taken seriously at the time. There is no picture of Crooks in Bethel Park High School's 2019 yearbook, and in fact, only one appears to have been taken during his career at the school. The now widely seen 2020 picture, which became the first published of him following his June 13th assassination attempt. Since then, only a thin portrait of Crooks, 20, has emerged from his beginnings as a normal little boy to the young man who grew up to be increasingly troubled loner, whose internet search history included major depressive disorder and who some suspected was bipolar or schizophrenic. Former classmates have described him as sweet, quiet, intelligent, and a loner, but was a bit off. They say he ate lunch alone and was bullied for being shy and weird. Madison Rudolph, 17, who was in Crooks' computer class despite their age difference, told DailyMail.com that he was part of a small friend group she described as outcasts with strange hobbies, the details of which she could not remember, but she recalled that they were nails as accessories. Crooks' high school experience coincided with the global pandemic, and Rudolph noted that he was further ostracized for continuing to wear a mask long after the mandates had been lifted and student life resumed a semblance of normalcy. One friend recalled that during the time of remote learning, Crooks would not put on his camera when joining class on Zoom. Crooks was not a member of any high school clubs, teams, or groups, in stark contrast to his older sister, Katie, 22, who was a popular and far more outgoing student, acting as both a school custodian and a member of the school yearbook team during her time at Bethel Park High. Crooks graduated from high school in 2022, but was listed as absent from senior yearbook pictures as he had been the year before. He recently graduated from Community College of Allegheny County, I think is how it's called, with an associated degree in engineering science this spring, and had been admitted to both the University of Pittsburgh and Robert Morris University for the fall. The shooting on Saturday, which came so close to killing the former president, left father of two, retired Fire Chief Corey Comparator, 50, dead, and two others critically injured. And former Marine David Dutch, 57, was shot in the chest and liver and has so far undergone 2 surgeries, while the family of the other victim, James Cooperhaven, 74, has asked for privacy while they come to terms with the life-threatening injuries that he has sustained. So far, no motive has emerged for the shooter, but for his friend, one possible reason was simply notoriety. He said he was someone who flew under the radar, someone easily forgotten, people didn't pay much attention to. Maybe part of his motive was just to solidify his name in the history books because really he was a nobody. Investigators have revealed that they have managed to access the information stored on both Crooks' cell phones, which they recovered and which contained just 27 contacts. The cells showed that Crooks visited the Butler site of the rally at least twice ahead of the event and contained photographs of Trump, Joe Biden, Fulton DA Fannie Willis, Rudy Giuliani, House Speaker Mike Johnson, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, and other politicians and celebrities, as well as unnamed members of the British royal family. On Monday, FBI agents visited his home, speaking with Crooks' parents, Matthew, 53, and Mary, 53, both Pennsylvania locals and both licensed counselors, for several minutes before fanning out and moving door to door across the neighborhood. One friend told the Daily Mail, "I suspect the FBI had interrogated his parents very thoroughly to find out if anything they knew about his state of mind. We're just struggling to understand what happened. It's so shocking. This is a community, and for this to have happened within it, it's almost too much to process right now. It's going to take a long time." According to the friend, honestly, we knew him less and less the older he got. But it seems he was nothing if not calculated and methodical. On Friday, he went to Clareton Sportsman Club shooting range and practiced firing. The next morning, he went to a Home Depot and purchased a 5-foot ladder. Pictures obtained exclusively by DailyMail.com show the concealed spot where he propped his ladder against the AGR building wall, allowing him to access the roof, across which he scrambled to take position. I thought, this is another thing, didn't we all hear that there were like at least one, if not 2 ladders going up to the roof or something? But he brought his own ladder, but he went and scoped it out. I don't know. A lot of this just seems like bumbling, like Crooks idiocy. Like, I don't know, just like kind of like I've said, like the guys in Home Alone, the criminals in Home Alone, like this bumbling criminal idiot somehow got past Secret Service and all these police to do all of this. I don't know. I don't understand it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he thought the ladders would be gone that day, so he just wanted to be extra prepared. But then, like, is this guy like really walking around with his own ladder and nobody says anything while he's got a scope? Yeah, I have so many unanswered questions. So it says from the Home Depot, he went to Allegheny Arms and Gun Works, a 5-minute drive from the family home, where he purchased 50 rounds of ammunition. And apparently reports are coming out that what they did was illegal by giving it to him. And I think it might have to do with mental health, but I haven't even read the report. I've just been hearing that they might be in trouble for that. Not entirely sure why. I know there are some issues or discrepancies if you have certain mental health issues that you're not allowed to have firearms. I don't know what that is though, so take that with a grain of salt. On Monday, FBI agents swarmed the AGR building from which Crooks fired his shots. DailyMail.com witnessed several as they inspected the roof, and at one point, one dropped to his belly, lying prone, as Crooks had done as he took aim and fired at Trump as he addressed the crowd. And it says they swept the ground and rooted through shrubbery and trees, and they removed the ladder, while questions continue to rage just as to how on earth a lone gunman managed to put it and himself there in the first place. Unless they did it ahead of time, but the Secret Service, I would assume, is there at least a day or two before and scoping everything out, right? Somebody is there before scoping out, and they didn't just see a random ladder and not say anything. But I guess maybe they thought there was some random maintenance worker or something, but the president's about to come, so I don't know. There just seems like there would be more concern, more attention being paid to this. It says Crooks was a dietary aide at Bethel Park Skilled Nursing and Rehabilitation Center where he provided food and care for post-hospital elderly and sick people. That right there is kind of terrifying. We'll go into that. The FBI has not responded to DailyMail.com's repeated attempts to reach them by phone and text. Now, we know that he had texted his work the day before and said he wasn't going to be able to come in, but he'd be in the next day. He's like, I got to take off Saturday. I got something to do. I'll be in Sunday. So it is interesting, though, when he was a dietary aide to sick elderly and people who are just post-hospital, that scares me as somebody who has been in several hospitals because of health issues and seen how poorly the system will treat people, and the bedside manner is just appalling. Knowing that he had this much lack of empathy and hatred for people, it scares me that he was taking care of people in a very vulnerable position. But then there's also the thought that he might have actually enjoyed that to some degree because that gave him a sense of power. Now, in saying that, guys, just because he did something awful doesn't mean he's wholly evil. What I mean by that is what he did was evil and awful. But there are shades of gray. People are complicated. And so maybe there was a side of him that was caring and did enjoy that kind of work of helping people, but also just wanted to make a name for himself and blow some stuff up. So I do think this is interesting, and it's funny because it contradicts the reports. I have a video out yesterday. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. A counselor came out, one of the school counselors, to say that he didn't have mental health issues. He was never like this, and they would have known. And I kind of debunked a lot of that, saying, no, you're a school counselor. You saw him once a year to help him with his schedule. And just because you saw him and he looked normal once a year, and he was like, well, we had a beat on when there was bullying going on. He wasn't bullied. We would have known. No, you wouldn't have. Kids many times get very private and they keep things like that to themselves. During my darkest years, I had 2 years where I fought to stay alive. And part of it was I was put on a medication called Singulair. Singulair now, I don't even know if it's on the market. I know that there were tons of lawsuits because it gives ideation of not wanting to be here. And it's supposed to be for extreme asthma and allergies. And although it worked, the problem is when it comes to certain things like asthma and allergies, many times that comes from gut health issues. So with something like that, it ends up messing with your gut health, which ends up messing with the chemicals in your brain even further. We didn't know that at the time. This was between the ages of 13 to 15. During those years, that was the darkest period of my life still to this day. To this day. What that medication did. And I was going through things as a teenager, but to have it amplified by medication was absolutely horrific. So what I'm saying is nobody knew what I was going through. I told my parents trying to get help, and they said, you're on your own. No. So I wasn't allowed any help, and we didn't know it was the medication. Not that my parents wouldn't have cared to look into it. I had the kind of boomer parents where they treated their children like pets and just wanted you away. If you had a problem, you are going to solve it no matter what it is, and do not bother me. They are still this way to this day. So anyway, my point was to say that, just the school counselor, it doesn't mean they knew what was going on. And I think it's pretty arrogant to think that they did, but I do think that school counselor who comes from an older generation probably has some levels of guilt. But he shouldn't. It's not his fault. It's not, I'll put it this way. Given the position that school counselors are in, this wasn't his fault. Should we actually have mental health staff for the kids that actually really in-depth helps them? I think there's an argument that can be made, but that's not what a school counselor necessarily is for. But I do think that this was ways of justifying. But I think you're going to get a better beat on what's going on with his classmates, with the classmates. And sometimes, guys, when you're in a situation where you're being bullied, to speak up about it makes it worse. And when it's young men, there's power dynamics where they're not necessarily wanting to get other people or adults involved, especially when they're going through puberty and they're trying to find themselves. So that doesn't seem like much to me. But I do think it's interesting that he had, and it said he was an outcast, but he'd have this little group. And, I was friends with everybody in school, including the outcasts, the freaks, the goths is what we called them back then. A lot of those people were really twisted and demented. Some of them were I think a lot of them were misunderstood, but a lot of them had a lot of issues. And I know because I was friends with them. And now looking back, I was friends with everybody and I liked the weirdos because I was a weirdo. But I wasn't ill-intended. I was also an overperformer, an overachiever, as a high school superstar. But you got to be careful with some of those people. They get really, really demented. There were groups of people like that I hung out with from time to time, and like they were really into serial killer stuff. Like they really liked serial killers and studying them. And one of them ended up, two of them ended up doing. One was essay stuff to me, and another one was violence. And so over the years, I've had to learn that although we don't want to bully people, sometimes the outcasts you have to be careful with because they have issues. And if you get too close to them, they can hurt you. And that comes from, and I'm an outcast. I'm saying that as somebody who was kind of an outcast. I don't know if they could call me an outcast. It was pretty social, but I was very misunderstood. And it was just very, very different. It was very out there and weird for that generation. I guess I still am. But yeah, so I found some of this interesting and wanted to go over some of this when it comes to that and the school shooting. So if he had already done this in school, because this is the thing, also everybody keeps wanting this to be politically motivated. We can't find a motive. It's because they're looking for a motive in politics. Because I just feel like the left has made things so divisive that if something happens like this, surely it can only be politics. Well, if he's already been a part of something like this before, I think it was infamy and power. I really do. I'm now at the point where, and on top of that, they're saying that his phone searches and what he had on his phone were pictures of not just political figures on both sides, but celebrities and the royals. And I don't think this is probably a kid who was super into celebrity culture. I doubt that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe. But seeing all that, I would think that this was probably a cry for attention and infamy. And sometimes, guys, there doesn't have to be a logic that we can understand. It could be Trump's very divisive. He is going to be here at this time. This is the closest thing that I'm going to get to being able to do this. Let's do it. And I already have a video, if you haven't seen it, go check it out, of what I think was actually going on with him and in his head as to why he would do this. Very, very smart kid, but was an outcast. If you do well at your schoolwork, you just focus on school, you're going to have a good life. Gets out, can't really get a job that pays well, and realizes everything was a lie. And now doesn't have any skills on knowing how to build himself up in society. Can't get a girlfriend. All those things build and compound. And then at that point, you just find ways to fill that hole in yourself along with the mental health issues, which probably go along with all of that. So I wanted to go over that, but there's also some more information, guys, that we have. So this one, and I think this is interesting, and this one just really irritates me more than anything else. This is from The Verge. So you guys remember, it says the FBI said it found the Trump rally shooter's Steam account, then took it back. Remember, it was like, so basically they said that he had a gaming account on Steam and made some statement like July 13th is going to be my show. And now they're saying it's not him. And it's just like, and they did this just a couple hours after releasing the info. And it's just interesting to me because between that and the Secret Service, nobody can seem to get their story straight on what's happening. And I don't know why this is taking so long. And it says, investigators told Congress about a warning by the shooter posted on Steam. Now they think it's fake. So it says FBI officials told Congress on Wednesday that the 20-year-old who shot at former President Donald Trump may have posted a warning on Steam before the attack. But CNN is now reporting the investigators think the account is fake. And it says, important update here. The FBI briefed senators yesterday that they believe his Steam account did indeed belong to Crooks, per sources familiar. Now the FBI has revised that assessment and investigators think the account is fake, U.S. officials tell CNN. Investigators at the Bureau gained access to Thomas Matthew Crooks' phone earlier this week and have been combing through to determine his motives, put together a timeline of events. In a briefing with members of Congress on Wednesday, FBI officials said Crooks had used his phone and other devices to search for information about and images of Trump and President Joe Biden, and that he left a cryptic message on Steam announcing the shooting, according to reports by the New York Times and ABC. July 13th will be my premiere. Watch it unfolds, read the message, which investigators told Congress was posted by Crooks. But the FBI have since revised its assessments, according to CNN. Sean Lingus, I think it is. I'm so bad with these last names. Sorry, guys. The Verge has reached out to Valve, which owns and operates Steam, for comment. The FBI declined to comment. Crooks also searched for dates of Trump's public appearances and of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, according to multiple reports. In addition to Trump and Biden, Crooks also, like I said, looked up multiple prominent figures, including FBI Director Christopher Wray, Attorney General Merrick Garland, and a member of the British royal family. Two officials with knowledge of the situation told the New York Times. Crooks' phone is one of several devices law enforcement has obtained in his scanning, sources told ABC. Apparently, they found 2 devices. They also found another one in his home, a second phone. Investigators are also reviewing Crooks' mail and shipping history after finding 3 explosive devices connected to him, according to federal law enforcement memo obtained by the New York Times. Crooks received multiple packages over the last several months, some of which were marked hazardous material. Good Lord. Because I was going to say, like, if he knew that he was going to do all this and he was just going to end up losing his life doing this, why go through all the trouble of trying to have all these phones and encrypted? But I guess if he's ordering all of this stuff through the mail that's all hazardous, like, I don't know, maybe that's why. It says so far, now the information law enforcement's obtained on Crooks points to a clear motive. Per the New York Times, Wray noted that there was an absence of any political or ideological information in Crooks' home. On one call with members of Congress, Kimberly Cheadle, head of the Secret Service, told legislators that the agency has made some serious mistakes, according to the New York Times. It looks like the FBI, which is still early in its investigation, may have as well. It's hard for me to take any of this seriously now. Literally, it was like an hour after this information come out, the FBI then tried to come out and say, oh, well, we don't think it's it's a Steam account. Some of this stuff is encrypted. It'll take time. I get it. But a Steam account, we really can't get that verified. So there's one other thing, and that is a classmate is speaking up about his dislike, apparently, for politicians. So let's look at this. It says FBI interviews classmate of Trump shooter Thomas Matthew Crooks over dislike for politicians. The FBI has reached out to a former classmate of would-be Thomas Matthew Crooks after he publicly revealed that he ended and confronted him years ago over his support for former Donald Trump and expressed a smug dislike for politicians. That's another thing. He had looked up the DNC. That's the Democratic National Convention. I really don't know if this was politically motivated other than to feel slighted by the system as a whole. He says, they called me, honestly, just asked me for names and if I could give them much else. 20-year-old Vincent, the same guy, had said. Agents asked questions about the Trump rally gunman social circle and he purported dislike for candidates like Trump, Senator Bernie Sanders, and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. But he also referred to himself as a dead end for the Bureau. He said he hadn't talked to the gunman in years. It sounds like a lot of people hadn't. He didn't hear much from Crooks after a school shooting threat that he believed originated from the killer's group of close friends. They were definitely the type they did make threats to shoot up our school, he said. However, he told Fox News Digital that while rumors swirled, there weren't any concrete evidences. Sorry guys, it's really early and I was streaming really late. Regarding who specifically in the group made the threat. He had suspicion though. Crooks vanished from school for several days afterward, he said. Jason Kohler, who told reporters earlier this week that Crooks had been relentlessly bullied in school, said the same. No one ever heard that, he said, when asked about Crooks being behind the threat. Another classmate, Sarah D'Angelo, separately told Fox News Digital that she didn't think he would have been involved in a threat. It happened at the high school when they were all in middle school. Interesting. So this is more of a but middle schoolers can threaten that sort of thing. But the former high school math whiz became a killer on Saturday, July 13th, as we know what happened. And then it says secret snipers neutralized Crooks at the scene, and they have images of him lying on the ground or lying on the roof. And then his classmate said he believed someone in Crooks' friend group must have known something about what triggered him to commit the violent attack. He says anybody who knew him, should have seen something, he said. They should have known something was up, and I know it's kind of easy to hide, but people are going to get their affairs in order before they do something that's this bold and drastic, and nobody saw it, and why. I got a few questions. I'm wondering about the parents calling the police. What we've heard is that his parents called the police the day of the attack because he went to the shooting range with a rifle or some gun of some sort and never came back. But typically, unless it's a child in an Amber Alert situation, don't you have to wait like 48 hours? Isn't there like a 48-hour situation before you call the police and make the report? And both parents are counselors. So isn't this like information they would know? So my wonder is, did they have information on this And here's the thing, I'm not even saying they kept info, but did they just put some 2 and 2 together? Did they already have some concerns and they just put it all together? And then about the shooting thing. So he was away from school after that. I wonder if there's any records of like suspensions of anything for that we could note. And then on top of that, the lack of the school pictures. So I can say this. My senior year of high school, part of it, my parent kicked me out and I was somewhat living on couches and somewhat living with a grandparent. And in that time of that happening, I did not do any of the high school stuff because at that point I wasn't going to be able to. I wasn't going to be able to afford it. And I just thought, you know what? It's not worth the money. I got to figure out going to college and possibly survival. What do I do? So I did not get school photos that year. Now I think if I remember right, photos were taken for the yearbook. There is a photo there, but I never got copies. So I do find it interesting that he was gone on yearbook days and didn't get photos taken. I wonder if that was intentional, if he was gone that much. But then again, like, remember the counselor said, hold on, his counselor said he only missed like 1 day out of the whole year. Did he miss picture day? Did he not want to be involved with picture day? Did he not want to be a part of the yearbook and involved with the people there? A lot of interesting questions, guys. And I just feel like in this situation, there's still more and more questions. And the more time goes on, honestly, the more it makes me question every bureau that's looking into this. It makes me question the FBI. It makes me question, I don't know if the CIA is involved. I guess it would be the FBI, right? CIA is more going to be like intelligence of other stuff, I think. FBI is like the big police, my understanding, my very limited understanding. But then and then the Secret Service, it's just, how long is this going to take to figure out and how many blunders and how many missteps are going to happen? And granted, I'm not saying the FBI has done a ton of misstepping, but why have this information released and then immediately change it an hour later? None of this sits right with me, guys. It just doesn't. I don't know, but I'm curious. What do you guys think? What do you think of my assessment? What do you think of this info coming out? I still think more and more we're not going to find a political motive. He was mad because he felt failed. He felt failed by his own mental health, by the bullying, by his peers, by his school, and by the fact that you get to a point where you realize the system is all rigged and everything is horse crap and you got to really make your way, but very few people know how to do it. So most people just get in forms of apathy and light forms of depression, and we just keep going on with our lives feeling disempowered and just taking whatever comes to you. And I understand it. I've lived that life too. The biggest test for me in that life is overcoming chronic illness and chronic health issues and even cancer, which I am still working on every single day. And it's my own personal nightmare, but this is what I'm going through with the universe, because the universe sees, number one, I can get through it. Number two, it's supposed to make me strong. And number three, I'm determined to get over this and find all different types of modalities and methods to heal and new technologies to bring back to you guys, because I am determined to help alleviate suffering where it's not needed. But then again, what's that for me to judge? The universe gives us what it gives us so we can all grow and evolve, correct? And I'm going to use every ounce of negativity that I've been given to become the best person I can be. And I encourage that for all of you. And remember, as I always say, no matter how dark things look and no matter how dark things get, no matter how bad things are, the dark forces, especially on a global level like this, fight back and freak out and melt down the hardest when the light is winning and good things are right on the horizon. Which is why I love how positive Trump is about the future for this country, because we should all be that positive about our futures, period, and continue to create from that place, because you deserve an amazing life. And on this channel, I'm gonna do everything I can to give that to myself and all of you guys. All right, guys, until the next video, I think that's it. If you like this video, guys, make sure and subscribe, hit that notification bell. Tell me what you think. Do you think I'm off base here? What do you think of this info? Sound off, and also leave me a like. That just personally helps me if you want to support me. All right, guys, till the next video, I'm giving everybody hugs, kisses. As always, stay safe. I love you guys so much, and I will see you soon. Bye.